Well, good morning, you sexy little mother hubbards. It's time for an alternative paper review. First up, one of the Murdoch's family jewels. The Sun apply absolutely no journalistic rigour and instead give a front page splash to the first tier, the top table of the royal family. I say the first tier, the upper circle of the royal family. But there is, there's somebody missing there. I don't know if you noticed it, but no Prince Andrew. And of course, I say one of the Murdoch's family jewels because it is all well, actually, I can't say that because of the algorithm. Anyway, this splash brought to you by Matt Wilkinson, whose parents must be so proud that their son became a journalist. You remember journalists, don't you? They fight for justice and scoops and truth. And clearly, that is what young Matty is doing here, completely ignoring the substance of the race route and instead retailing out a press release by Buckingham Palace. And I tell you what, in the context of Jeremy Hunt and Rishi Sunak's Get Britain Back to Work drives, whoever is doing the PR for the royal family right now is earning their money. Because it is the front page splash across all of the right-wing rags. What's going on in Britain at the moment? You would never know, casual reader. Is there a housing crisis? Is healthcare in tatters? Is the government in disarray following this inquiry? Honestly, who could say? Because the national conversation is dominated by this high society soap opera. Anyway, taking a brief, leisurely break from billionaires saying racist things to millionaires doing racist things, the Express say there is no reason to block the Rwanda deal. No reason. There are a couple of laws, though. They say this new treaty that Cleverly and Sunak were hyping solves the problems that the Supreme Court raised. And they quote Cleverly saying it will halt illegal migration across the Channel, saving the taxpayers millions of pounds. No, it won't. The agreement is for 200 of them. 200! Do you know how many come across on any one day? But this is what I mean when I say this government are not just racist and cruel. They are also hugely ineffectual and incompetent. Like, it's not going to work. It's not going to hold any small boat crossings. Do you know why? Because if Rwanda is as safe as you say it is, all they're going to do is look at the war and the famine and the persecution behind them and go, yeah, well, there's no competition between these two. Yeah, sign me up. I'll climb in the boat. And if it isn't as safe and wonderful as you say, well, first, that makes you a liar. But more importantly, mathematically, if you were fleeing persecution, wouldn't you, look at Rwanda and go, well, it's only 200 out of, 40,000, I like those odds. That is higher odds of survival. That's a better odd of survival than if I go back to Kabul and get thrown off the top of a building. So yeah, I'll take my chance. Let me get in the boat. The Rwanda policy is front and centre in the Times also. Honestly, I'm so sick of this obsession with immigration, with asylum seekers, refugees, net migration figures, every other day on the front page of all of the rags. No, it doesn't make you an awful person to have some concerns about who comes into the country. But it should not be your chief concern. It should not be the scoop on the front page of the newspaper constantly, in the same way that the things that actually affect you and your family and most families' lives should be or could be. Do you know what I mean? We should be talking about the NHS. That's something that reaches out and touches so many people every single day. We should be talking about tax avoidance, about how these big conglomerates don't pay their way, and then there's less money in the coffers, and then we can't fund the public services that we all rely on properly. But instead, it's day in, day out. Rwanda deal this, and net migration figures that. And as I noted on yesterday's alternative paper review, the fact that a foreign state, and therefore foreigners, China or Russia, we don't know who it is yet, has hacked a British nuclear power plant. The fact that actual foreigners have attacked the UK, but the newspapers and political obsession is all about these foreigners in small boats over here. The fact that that's where their priority lies tells you that their obsession with foreigners hurting Britain and hurting Brits is actually only superficial. I think that's the thing that stings about it most. If they were actually ignorant and they really thought that these people were harmful, well, they might be hurting us. You could kind of almost respect it. You'd be like, oh, okay, so you genuinely do. But it's so obvious that it is just paper thin. It is only there to distract. That's the thing that really stings about it. Anyway, the Telegraph say ministers threatened to quit over Rwanda flights law. Good. Let them quit. Just open up the door and just usher them out, Or, if you really want to make a stand about it, if you want to give some sort of pushback, here's what you do. You sit them down and you say, okay, so you want to fly the refugees off to Rwanda. Why? There's too many of them coming over in their small boats. It's like an invasion. No, it's not. It's not an invasion. Do you know what an actual invasion is? I swear to God, because all of these people, like their parents were sort of like the wartime generation, it's sort of come down into their psyche and now they feel guilty that they're not involved in some sort of big geopolitical struggle in the way that their parents were. Does that make sense? Like they feel like failures or like less than if they're not involved in some sort of invasion type event.
Every time I talk about small boats and invasions, my daddy feeds me a cookie.
Anyway, that's it for this one. Before I go, though, do go and check out the punk politics video I put up last night, okay? Prince Andrews and Nonsberger.